All right, welcome back. We've done an amazing job so far. I'm really proud of you. In this video, we are going to continue what we started, and we are going to make Pac-Man die when the ghost touches them. So here's what I'm going to start with. I'm going to go to this motion script for the ghost, and at the very end in the forever loop, I'm going to add an if check whether I'm touching Pac-Man. So if this is the last block of the forever loop. So if touching, I'm going to select Pac-Man. So if I'm touching Pac-Man, I'm going to play a certain sound, which I think it's called Pac-Man Death. Right? And I'm going to broadcast a message and tell Pac-Man to die. So I'm going to go to events and I'm going to broadcast a new message that I'm going to call Pac-Man die. Now when I, the ghost, receive this message, I would like every other script to stop. So I'm going to go to control and bring in stop other scripts in this sprite. Now if Pac-Man is the one to receive that message, so go to events, and when I receive Pac-Man die, I want Pac-Man to rotate a little bit and stop every other script. So Pac-Man will not accept more user input, will not move anywhere, and will simply rotate as it's about to die. So I'm going to do a very similar thing. I'm going to stop other scripts in the sprite. I'm going to switch its costume to one of Pac-Man's where its mouth is open. So I think it's Man 3. So I'm going to switch the costume to Man 3, and I'm going to rotate it a little bit. So I'm going to go to control and bring in a repeat loop, and over 72 repetitions I'm going to turn Pac-Man around by 10 degrees. So 72 times 10 is 720 degrees. Now remember that a full rotation is 360 degrees, so we're doing 2 full rotations. So I'm going to go to motion and turn clockwise by 10 degrees. So let's hit the flag and see what happens. So the ghost moves on its own, it exited the cage, and it's going after Pac-Man. But that sound is very weird. That is because I'm continuing to start the sound of Pac-Man death at every single touch. So let me do it a little bit differently. If touching Pac-Man, I'm going to broadcast Pac-Man die, and after I've stopped all the other scripts in the sprite, I'm going to actually play the sound until it's done. So play the sound Pac-Man death until done. But I also noticed that I forgot to change the message that I'm reacting to. So I'm going to select Pac-Man die here. So let me hit the flag now and see the effect. So the ghost got out and it's after me, and good. Right, so Pac-Man is now dead and every other script is terminated. The next thing that I'm going to do is constantly update the target for Inky, because right now we have a single set of target coordinates. As Pac-Man will move, so will the target coordinates for the ghost. So here's how I'm going to do that. I'm going to click on Pac-Man. I'm going to create 2 variables. I'm going to name this Pac-Man X for all the sprites, and I'm going to create another variable called Pac-Man Y for all the sprites. Now Pac-Man will update these variables to be its coordinates, and Inky will use these coordinates as its target. So in Pac-Man's movement script, at the very end, I'm going to set those variables to its coordinates. So I'm going to bring in 2 set blocks at the very end of the forever loop. So I'm going to set Pac-Man X to be the X position of the sprite, and Pac-Man Y to be the Y position of the sprite. And in the Inky sprite, I'm going to remove the set target X and target Y, and I'm going to instead bring a forever loop. So forever, I'm going to update my target coordinates to be Pac-Man's coordinates. So I'm going to go to variables and set. I'm going to set target X and target Y to be Pac-Man X and Pac-Man Y. So, given that, let me now hit the flag, and let me also move Pac-Man around the screen so that the ghost will now follow me throughout the maze. This is amazing. All right, so the ghost is there and it will climb up to see me. Hopefully. Right, so it's following me, and it might also be able to kill me if I give it a chance. All right, so the ghost is intelligent enough to go after me. This is amazing. And I'm now dead. So at this point, you have created your first intelligent agent that is trying to get you in the game. And this whole section of the course was dedicated to teach you how to create your own intelligent enemies. So this, in computer science, is what we call artificial intelligence. And you have programmed a very simple version of an artificially intelligent agent. Now, of course, there are lots and lots of possibilities to make this ghost pick better paths towards Pac-Man. In fact, I challenge you to find better alternatives, better ideas than what we've written here to make the ghost get to Pac-Man in a shorter time. So having said that, let's carry on. I would like Pac-Man, when it dies, to reset the round of the game. So ultimately, would like Pac-Man to lose a life, but restart the game in its original position. So I'm going to broadcast a message when Pac-Man dies. So after this turning around, I'm going to broadcast a new message. I'm going to name this new round. Now, if we come to think about this new round event or message, most of these starter scripts that we wrote in this entire chapter, basically, they should actually start when a new round is broadcast. So I'm going to replace these scripts with a starter with when I receive new round. So when I receive new round and when I receive new round. And the same for the ghost. So these starter scripts are going to be when I receive new round for the movement as well. So when I receive new round, and for the decision script as well. So when I receive new round. Now, somebody has to broadcast this message in the first place. And the sprite that's going to do that is going to be the overlay sprite. So we haven't programmed the overlay sprite yet, but we will now. So when the flag is clicked, this overlay sprite will go to a certain position on the screen. So right about maybe here. So x equals 0 and y equals 70. So something like that. Then I'm going to go to looks and I'm going to switch the costume to press start. All right. Then I'm going to make it show and go to the front layer just in case it overlaps with any other sprite. All right. And then I'm going to wait until I press the spacebar. So wait until key space pressed. Now after I press space, the costume of the sprite is going to change from space to start to ready, and after 2 seconds the sprite will be hidden from the screen, and in the meantime it will kick off the start of the game. So I'm going to go to events and broadcast new round. I'm going to switch my costume to ready, and after 2 seconds I'm going to hide it from the screen. So go to control, wait for 2 seconds, and then from looks I'm going to hide. So let me hit the flag now to be sure that my intention was correctly translated to the code. So space to start, space, and a new round has kicked off. This is great. Alright, I'm going to stop the game and move on to create the clones of these ghosts that are all going to go to Pac-Man on their own. So I'm going to click on the Inky sprite, and when I click the flag, I will create some clones of myself. Now, I'm going to first move to some coordinate, change to a certain costume, then create a clone. Then move to a given coordinate, change to another costume, and create a clone. Then move to another coordinate, change costume, create a clone, and then move to another coordinate, and that will be me. So this will be the logic for the script. So I'm going to go to and change costume, so switch costume, and then create a clone of myself. So create clone of myself, and I'm going to duplicate these 3 blocks. So duplicate, and then duplicate again. And finally, I'm going to remove the last clone of myself because that will be the original sprite. That will be me. So let me fill in some coordinates here. I'm going to say -32 and 0, then switch costume to Inky, go to x -16 and y equals 0, and then switch costume to Blinky. Then I'm going to go to x equals 0 and y equals 0 and switch costume to Pinky. And then I'm going to go to 16 and 0 and switch costume to Clyde. And that will be the original sprite. Now, notice that when I hit the flag, we have our ghosts here aligned. So our ghosts have been duplicated and cloned. Now, I'm not going to kick this game off because I'm going to add some new things. I'm going to add a variable that will be private to this sprite, and that variable will say the coordinates that this ghost was originally set up on screen, because once Pac-Man dies, all the ghosts, all the clones, will be reset to their original position inside the cage, and unless we have some variables, we will not know where to place them. So I'm going to create 2 variables. I'm going to name this original X for this sprite only, and I'm going to make another variable original Y for this sprite only. And I'm going to set the values for these variables once when I start as a clone. So I'm going to add another script starting with when I start as a clone. So when I start as a clone, I'm going to set original X and original Y to be the original coordinates X position and Y position at the start of their life. So I'm going to go to motion and bring in X position and Y position. And just to keep consistency, I'm also going to set their original costume here. So I'm going to remove this guy from the when I receive new round, and I'm going to place it right there on top where I start as a clone. Now, when I receive new round, instead of going to a very well-defined set of coordinates -16 and -16, I'm going to go to original X and original Y, which were set at the beginning of this clone's life. So I'm going to go to variables, and I'm going to pick original X and original Y to fit in here. Now there's another tiny thing that I will do. I will also set the costume ID to costume number for the original sprite that did not have this block. So I'm going to duplicate this, and I'm going to put it right here. So this block will only be executed by the original sprite that generates all the clones. But that's not the only thing that the original sprite needs to do. It also needs to set its original X and original Y to its coordinates. So I'm going to simply remove that and duplicate these 3 blocks, and I'm going to snap them right here after all the clones have been generated. So these 3 blocks will be executed by the original sprite. Now at this point, I'm ready to test everything. So hit the flag and notice that all the ghosts are aligned. And if I hit space, the ghosts will go after me. And I think I'm going to start having a tough job keeping it up. So all the ghosts are trying to chase me, and I think I'm being cornered. Uh-oh. I am going to die pretty soon. Alright, so at this point the game is difficult enough that it's worth playing. You have intelligent enemies that are trying to get you. But that's not the end of Pac-Man. In the next video, we will program Pac-Man to be able to eat these power pills, which give it the special power to chase up the ghosts. In that mode, if Pac-Man touches the ghost, it will eat them and make them unavailable for the duration of the level. So I'm waiting for you after the break.